Hello, dear viewer, dear listener. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. We're now getting to the third week of this lockdown. It's been quite an interesting lockdown, and it's about more than a week since we last posted something on YouTube, something interesting. So I thought to myself, as I've managed to survive 3 weeks of the lockdown, or getting to the third week of the lockdown, that I should share something interesting with you. So I'm going to talk to you about the top 10 nuggets of wisdom on how to not only survive, but to thrive during the lockdown. A few interesting ideas, so let's get into it. Number 1, pray and meditate. What do I mean by this? What I actually do every morning is put aside an hour or two for prayer and meditation. Sometimes it's prayer with the family, but other times you can just go alone in a quiet place in your room, and then you self-introspect. It's refreshing. You need that silence. You need that moment alone with your maker. So I find that if I do that, it sets the tone for the rest of the day throughout the house, throughout the compound. Number 2, create content. What do I mean by creating content? Creating content simply means generating, content or material that can be used in your work or elsewhere. I, for instance, as I'm talking to you now, I am creating some form of content, in this case, video content. You could spend the time writing a book. You could spend your time doing memos or communicating with your staff, or creating some form of content. It has to be a deliberate effort, because what we've been told to do during the lockdown is not simply to just disappear. We've been asked to work remotely from home. So you could use this time to actually work from home and generate content. If you're into Facebook like I am, or into LinkedIn, or into other forms of social media, this lockdown provides a wonderful opportunity for content generation. If you are a writer of a blog, this affords you uninterrupted time to be able to cultivate those skills and to work on that content. Number 3, interact with the family. A lot of my interactions, and I think all busy people can relate to this, with my children or my daughter had been, hi, how was school? It was fine. How was work? It was fine. Finished. That was all the interaction we have. Now, with the lockdown, you are afforded additional opportunities to interact and really get to know what makes your family tick. I have, for instance, an arrangement with my daughter where I make her read a chapter or 2 in a book, and then I set aside time, an hour or so, for us to analyze that chapter, for us to interact and get to know how we look at the world, how we understand the world. And most of the time, if it's a book on personal development that I would have given her, I'm able to ask her other things about other areas in her life, and that family interaction becomes not only time consuming, but it becomes valuable, and it becomes something that has identifiable value that you can be really proud of. Number 4, get into your reading. I have often wondered why does Warren Buffett ask, why every time he's asked about his what he does with his time, he says he spends 6 to 8 hours reading. And I've said, how can a person spend so much time in a day reading? And now with the lockdown, I'm finding that indeed it's possible. Indeed, there's nothing it's something that I can get used to. I don't do the 6 or 8 hours like Mr. Buffett, but I'm able to set aside 2, even up to 3 hours a day absorbing content. And there are all kinds of interesting books. I was able to go to exclusive books before the lockdown, and I got this very interesting book by Laura Huang, called The Edge, How to Gain an Edge. And there are other books like The Daily Stoic, one of my favorite authors, Ryan Holiday, and so many other books. And this side, the camera is not showing, but this side shows all the books that are in my personal development library. So there's a wonderful opportunity in terms of the lockdown for me to get deeper into reading. Number 5, what else can you do? I think this is the right time to write to your bankers. Write to financial institutions like CEDA. CEDA have indicated that they do have a program for offering some relief to their clients. Most banks are thinking in terms of granting their clients some form of moratorium or some kind of relief or some reprieve, whatever you want to call it, in terms of which you are given some kind of payment holiday if you meet a certain criteria. This is the time to engage your bankers. There are guidelines that are available both online, and if you can communicate directly with your RM, otherwise known as a relationship manager at the bank, to get an exact criteria of what is needed. A lot of the material that is needed can be provided online. If, for instance, they want you to provide your latest financials, in my case, I just get my accountant to generate those and to send them online after maybe having them scanned and photocopied and then sent across. Number 6, stay active. By this, I'm referring to exercise, ladies and gentlemen. Remain active. I spend at least an hour or 2 in some form of exercise, walking around the house, doing a few push-ups, walking around. I've seen a lot of people online, they have a 6-pack challenge. And I think if you had started at the beginning of the lockdown to work on that 6-pack, by now it would already be taking shape. I don't happen to believe in things like 6-packs. I just believe in having one pack that is flat. And that's what I do. You spend a lot of time. You can spend a lot of time during this lockdown remaining active. And I don't have to share with you the scientific evidence that is readily available on YouTube as to the beautiful advantages of exercise in terms of rejuvenating your brain power and keeping your mind alert. Number 7, this one is a little bit unusual. Find ways of attending church services online. Some of us who are religiously inclined and some of us who are active in church will find the withdrawal symptoms of not going to church or participating in church activity can be quite painful. So in my case, I really need to be with people. I really need to be energized through that worship once in a while. So our church fortunately is very technologically savvy. Our pastor, Moruti Ramasankate, has found a way of getting into Zoom and connecting us through Zoom as a church so that we can attend church services on Wednesday, on Friday, and even on Sabbath, which is on Saturday. So I think it is one way of finding out how you can do that with your church. Other churches, what I've noticed is that the pastor would just give a sermon on something like YouTube, and that sermon would be uploaded and then shared with the congregation. That is one way of certainly surviving this surviving and thriving this lockdown. Number 8, stay connected with the news. Here, I must add a caveat. Don't be obsessed with the news. The news can be very depressing, and it's been proven scientifically that if you get too much negative news, it wears down on your immune system. It actually makes you sick. Negative news, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure this is not breaking news for you, can actually wear you down and waste you away. So my recommendation is that limit your exposure to news to 1 hour or so. I know that because what I've discovered is if something is sufficiently important, it will get to you sooner or later. Somebody will send it via WhatsApp. Somebody will send you, will post it on Facebook or something like that. So important news will get to you. So don't go and spend all your time in front of a television watching CNN or Sky or whatever, because it is terribly depressing, and it has always been. So there's a reason why in the circles of Amway they call the television automatic income reducer, because not only does it take your time away when you could be generating income or doing something positive elsewhere, number 1. Number 2, it also makes you sick and wastes away your health. So please limit your exposure to news. Number 9, do your affirmations. I've actually have already a post on YouTube on this subject of keeping yourself motivated, where I talk about the importance of doing affirmations, making incantations, repeatedly encouraging yourself. There's plenty of material on YouTube, there's plenty of material online which can help you get affirmations that redirect your mind, your level of consciousness towards positive things, towards getting things that are good, that are energizing, that will make an improvement in your life. Now, I'm coming to number 10 now. The 10th nugget of wisdom on surviving and thriving during this lockdown is to actually see how much of your previous routine you can maintain. In this case, I find that making telephone calls, work-related, not work-related, keeps me sane, keeps me focused. So I'm urging that you can call individuals within your organization. Sometimes I call our external accountant, sometimes I call our internal accountant, sometimes I call our auditors, in order to keep in touch with important things concerning the business. And I'm discovering a thing called video calling. I never used to do it much, but during the lockdown, since I crave a little bit of human contact, I'm able to do video calling. Thank God for technology in that respect. So I'm able to call and interact with various stakeholders, including bankers, including auditors, like I mentioned, and accountants, and stay in touch during this lockdown. Number 11, I always, as you know, over the years, I should say over the months, ladies and gentlemen, because we've only been on this podcast for about 7 months, I always throw in the 11th bonus. The 11th bonus is simply be optimistic, maintain a positive mental attitude, think of things that are good, things that are positive, don't focus on things that are negative. I'm not saying that is not a bad, ugly world out there. For instance, some of the stories we hear about the origins of this coronavirus can be very, very depressing. But your challenge is to motivate and energize yourself and to keep thinking of the positive, the fact that A is going to come to an end. B, whoever started it will eventually, sooner or later, be caught. C, the world is richer and better in terms of knowledge, in terms of awareness as a result of this coronavirus. And 4, the earth itself, Mother Earth, has taken a break. The coronavirus has given the earth an opportunity to take a break in terms of the amount of pollution that it's exposed to, in terms of the amount of waste and the amount of negative activity that the world has been encountering. Pastors will call you sin. The amount of sin that has been taking place has been drastically and substantially reduced as a result of this terrible coronavirus. So those are the positive things that keep me energized. Those are the top 10 nuggets of wisdom on what to do and how to thrive and how to manage this lockdown. And like I said in another posting on Facebook, it is a lockdown. It is not a knockdown. It's not a shutdown. And therefore, do not back down. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to keep sharing content and I'm going to keep communicating with my people. And in this regard, I'm urging you, please, to like this podcast and to indicate your liking of it by subscribing to this channel so that I can continue to share and inspire you during this lockdown. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, viewer, dear listener, for taking the time out to listen to this podcast. Thank you.